Hello and welcome to Cycles of Time, your weekly guide to what's happening on Earth as we make our revolutionary journey around the sun. For time immemorial, our human ancestors have created myths and meanings to help us adapt and thrive as seasons change. Join me each week to explore the intersections of these ancient cycles, from the Indigenous Medicine Wheel to the Pagan Wheel of the Year, the Babylonian and Greek zodiac to the I Ching, the ancient Chinese Book of Changes. I'm your host, Alison, and this is the Cycles of Time podcast. Hey everybody, welcome to Cycles of Time podcast. This week we are going to look into the energies of the week of August 11th through 17th, 2025. This episode is called #Blessed, Venus Kisses Jupiter and Mercury Stations Direct. So welcome to the podcast and to a moment of blessings in the Wheel of the Year as we celebrate the annual Venus-Jupiter conjunction, along with Mercury stationing direct this week after 3 weeks retrograding through Leo. If last week felt difficult, thanks to the Saturn-Mars opposition and a tense Aquarius full moon, this week could provide a little bit of respite and the fog lifting up a little bit, hopefully, with these couple of good vibes going through. So with Mercury stationing direct, conversation should flow more easily and self-expression will feel more aligned than it has over the past few weeks. In the heat of Leo season, it's a good time to speak from the heart and to trust that what you're reaching for might actually be reaching back. So today and tomorrow, if you're listening to this on Monday or Tuesday, Venus and Jupiter are meeting up in Cancer, and this is big news in the astro world. It's like all the beams of beautiful light shining through because Venus and Jupiter are the two benefics planets in traditional astrology. Good vibes with both of those planets, and they're coming together in Cancer where they're both pretty happy. So they are coming together in Human Design Gate 39, which is known as provocation. And this is one of the luckiest and most twinkly conjunctions we get each year that brings a chance for emotional expansion and heart openings and surprising breakthroughs in love and creativity and connection. And in the gate of provocation, it might stir something up in you. I like to think of this gate as like the crab gate, the gate of Cancer season, where the crab has its claws out and is kind of like, okay, I'm ready to interact with the world and provoke and be provoked. So the highest frequency of this gate is liberation. And so this conjunction here is kind of like a gentle nudge from the universe that asks us, what would happen if you let yourself want more? And what if the discomfort is actually an invitation to bloom, to break free of the chains that your mind has been imposing on your actions? So that's some high-level stuff for this week. I think the Venus-Jupiter conjunction is going to get a lot of airtime in the astro world, but in the gate of provocation, it does add a little bit of a like, ooh, provocation. What's that all about? So we'll talk about that in a minute, but I'll just continue the overview here for a sec. This week, the seasonal wheel is continuing its turn to the west and the medicine wheel, which is an introspective direction, which is linked to autumn's approach and the wisdom that comes from maturity and from reflection. In the 5-element whooshing cycle, we're transitioning from the element of fire to earth, and we've talked about this a little bit in the past few episodes, how this time around Lammas, this middle point of Leo season, is really a transitional time between the flames of fire in both the medicine wheel and the whooshing cycle to the kind of more burning embers of the fixed fire sign of Leo, where we're transitioning from yang to yin, but in a very gradual way, like the fire dying down and feeling that heat of the hearth's embers. So as we transition from fire to earth in the whooshing cycle, this is, those embers becoming the earth and asking us to root in what's real, what's nourishing, and also asking what sustains us beyond the quick wins, beyond the flashes of light. What is the sustainable kind of fire energy that's here in Leo season? Leo season, is it's still hot. It's still summer in my mind, but it has a slower pace, a slower rhythm. Some kids are starting to go back to school, which just feels way too early in my mind. I guided a Leo season breathwork journey right before recording this and had some agreement on that a lot of people are like, yeah, it feels like heat of summer, but I'm getting all these back to school ads and it feels really confusing, like tugged in multiple directions. And that's definitely true. Yeah, August can have that kind of like in betweenness about it. And so it's interesting that in these seasonal wheels of the medicine wheel and the whooshing cycle that there is a transition happening between the elements right now. In the human design in I Ching wheel, we're moving through gate 7, which is the role of the self in interaction or the army. And that's just through the end of the day, Monday. So we talked mostly about that last week, but it is about leadership and empowerment as being part of a group. And this gate really asks us, how do I lead in a way that serves the whole, not just myself? And yeah, it kind of ties into being a part of the larger picture. I feel like this season of late summer is really about connecting ourselves with the bigger seasonal changes, the bigger tides that are existing around us. We just celebrated the cross quarter day of Lamas or Lunasa, and that marked the first harvest, that the astrological degree of the 15 degrees of Leo, which is that cross quarter day, was last Thursday, August 7th. And so whether you celebrated Lammas on the 1st of August, as it's celebrated in the Gregorian calendar, or on the astrological midway point between the solstice and the equinox, which was the 7th, that was first harvest time, which is kind of both literal and symbolic. And it's a time where I really notice when I walk around my neighborhood that there are some plants that are green and thriving and growing upward still and growing outward. And then there's others that are dying, mostly the grains and the grasses, and some of the stockier plants are starting to turn brown. And you can kind of just barely notice them, like gray hairs in a head of black hair kind of situation, just a few of them poking through. But one of the rituals for this holiday, this cross quarter day, is to create a doll or a talisman out of the leaves and the grains and the reeds and the grasses that are turning, that are dying and that are turning brown. And so I did that this afternoon. And it was really a beautiful ritual to partake in, of going through and just really taking the time to notice that certain things are still growing upward. There's plenty more harvests ahead. There's a couple more harvest festivals, and there's plenty more growth and flourishing to happen in the coming months. But this is the first time that we're starting to notice certain things are dying. And it is a really beautiful time in late summer right now in Leo season to start to begin to hold both life and death in one hand, and begin to really see the polarities of, holding grief and gratitude both at the same time. And that really relates to this season in the medicine wheel and the whooshing cycle, as well as this transition to adulthood and maturity, away from the fiery flames of youth and into this emotional space, this watery space, or this grounded earth space, where we can learn to hold more than one emotion at a time, because that's oftentimes how it works. So that's something that I just had come through kind of in the breathwork session. Thank you all for joining, those of you who did. I love how things come through when you don't necessarily expect it, but that was one of the biggest takeaways from that session, was hearing people talk about how, yeah, there's this feeling of needing to let go of certain things and needing to grieve certain things, and also feeling gratitude for what it is that they've brought to our lives. So that is the energy that we've been in and continue to be in, transitioning into these new elements. But back to the human design part, on Tuesday, we shift into gate 4, which is the gate of formulation, where our minds might start searching for answers. We're moving kind of from the heart center, where gate 7 is activated, and into the ajna, or the third eye center. And for the majority of this week is called Youthful Folly in the I Ching. So it's a gate of youthful questions and playful ideas, but can also lead to mental overdrive to like have to know the answer if you're not careful. So later on this week, it might help to ask yourself if you're trying to figure it all out too fast, and just give yourself a little space to see if the answers can come in their own time. About how you can lead. That's a big theme of Leo season. But how you can be your sovereign self within the collective and how you can best do that. There's lots of questions that come with that. So this week is about those questions. And the moon is waning away from last week's powerful full moon in Aquarius. And so the energy is softening a bit after that massive buildup with the grand air trine and the kite formation last week and the Mars opposition from Saturn. There's a lot going on last week. And so this week should take the foot off the gas a little bit. Hopefully you can let yourself exhale and reorient with a few of these beautiful happenings. There's definitely more growth coming through this year. September has our upcoming eclipse season, which are happening right on my birthday, and my sun and my moon gate. We have these eclipses happening. So, oh my gosh. But nothing to be afraid of. Eclipses are revelatory and can change directions, but that's happening in September. So we're still here in mid-August and early August even. Wow. Anyway, take this week to revel in the glow of the kissing benefic planets Jupiter and Venus, and remember that not everything has to be solved right this second. You're allowed to pause and shift and ask new types of questions and just bask in that beauty of Venus and Jupiter in the gate of provocation. So we'll start with that today, diving a little deeper into the gate of provocation, gate 39, where Venus is making out with Jupiter in this Cancer gate. And it kind of builds off the full moon in Aquarius that happened in gate 13, the gate of the listener, last Saturday. That lunation cracked open the vault of memory, both collective and personal, and really asked us to hear the stories that want to be told and the truths that want to be witnessed. Aquarius brought the cool detachment that allows us to see patterns. Aquarius is very pattern recognition sign. And gate 13 in Aquarius, where the full moon was, is all about the willingness to hold space for the raw, unpolished confessions that may have surfaced. Gate 13, the gate of the listener, is oftentimes, if you have this active in your chart, it is the type of person who people will come to and tell their secrets to, kind of unprovoked. They'll just, find that the person who has 13 is a good listening ear and tell them things that they might not even have told themselves, type of situation. So many of us, me included, have felt like we have been kind of sifting through the archives of our own hearts and deciding which pieces of the past still matter to us and which we're finally ready to release. And that was big energy over that full moon last weekend. So now Venus and Jupiter in Cancer are kind of picking up that emotional thread, all the things that have risen to the surface. And they're kind of pulling that thread straight into your living room or your kitchen and the heart of the home. Cancer is all about the home. And so in gate 39, which is the gate of provocation in Cancer, these two planets that are known traditionally as the benefics are not content to just listen to the secrets that are being told, but they want to shake them free from the shackles. They want to kind of poke and prod at any complacency that's hiding in the shadows. So the stories that surfaced under the full moon really aren't meant to sit untouched in your journal. Especially with this Venus-Jupiter conjunction in the gate of provocation happening right after. This really indicates a moment to bring these things that are rising to the surface that have been deep inside you, perhaps listening to yourself, listening to others, and bringing them into conversation and risking vulnerability with those over the beginning of this week. Venus in Cancer through the gate of provocation kind of feels like love with a mischievous heartbeat. It's like a flirty kind of situation. It's the kind of affection that dares you to drop your guard and see things in a fresh light. In Cancer, Venus wants closeness and comfort and emotional safety, but in gate 39, she's kind of going to poke and prod at you to get to the real root of what's underneath in order to become close and have that emotional safety. It's like a certain type of button pushing, a tenderness, testing, playful testing of loyalty, and kind of a teasing kind of quality that these planets are coming together in, that is really just an invitation to share more of your true self. And it's not meant to disrupt or push you away. Provocation is kind of like asking for more engagement. And so Venus here is about deepening bonds through the spark that comes when you're stirred awake. And meeting up with the great expander Jupiter will give wings to whatever it is that is opened up during this transit. So I'd say that the full moon in Aquarius last weekend gave us the download that helped us find balance between listening and speaking. And the Venus-Jupiter conjunction this week is giving us the courage to stir the pot and weave those revelations into our relationships and see what changes when we stop holding it all in. This week, you can expect heartfelt talks that start soft and meander into emotional truths that might provoke you a bit. And also, the siddhi, the transcendent level of this in the gene keys, is liberation. Provocation leads to liberation. And so I really like that as a word to hold in your pocket this week. That if you're feeling provoked, if you're feeling like the provocations are expanding bigger than usual because of that Jupiter there, or if they're more personal because of Venus there, I would say that consider that provocation as something that could lead you to liberation and something that could lovingly push you towards showing more of your real self and showing up with authenticity. So together, the full moon and then this Jupiter-Venus conjunction in Cancer kind of are working like a tide, I'd say, where the moon kind of pulls some memories up to the surface, and then Venus, Jupiter together want to kind of carry them to shore and not let them go back underwater. Also on Monday, Mercury stations direct in Leo, and so that's the same day as the Venus-Jupiter conjunction, where it always feels nice to have a direct motion with that inner planet Mercury that affects us all so much on the daily. And so I'm curious how that backwards ride has been for you for the past 3 weeks, where Leo falls in your chart. It's been in my first house, and so it's been a lot of reconsiderations, reviews, reassociations about myself, my identity. It's been a very personal Mercury retrograde. And so wherever Leo is in your chart, you can look there and see, how have I been reviewing and redoing certain things during this time. Retrograde Mars in Leo has a way of pressing pause on bold moves, and it forces us to kind of reconsider what we've been pouring our energy into and whether it's really aligned with our hearts. So it might have been a sticky one. I don't know. It's about our self-expression. It's about our radiance. It's about our heart center. So a retrograde there always feels a little, you can feel it, right? It's where the emotions live. And so as the planet of drive, planet of communication turns forward motion again, you can notice this week what you're ready to pick back up all of a sudden, and also what battles you've decided weren't worth fighting in the first place, and what you want to kind of leave behind and decide, I'm not going to put my energy there anymore. And then also see where your courage feels freshly renewed. I think this Leo is the sign of courage, and courage is in the heart, and it's all about the heart. And so it's tapping into that heart energy this week as Mercury stations direct and asking how you feel renewed. And as Mercury stations direct in Leo, it's not doing it in isolation. We still have Mars at the same time opposing Saturn and Neptune in Aries, which was a theme of last week. And this can feel like driving with one foot on the gas with the other one lightly on the brake. Saturn-Mars opposition is definitely something that even though Mercury is going forward, we still have this kind of like gas brake energy with Mars and Saturn across from each other. And so even with Mercury direct, that opposition can bring moments of self-doubt or a sense that your motivation is tangled with uncertainty. So it's not going to be the most forward of the forward motions of Mercury retrograde. We still have a lot of planets retrograde after Mercury stations direct. So I'd say the best way through is not to rush, just continue on with that review if you can. Really like taking stock of the lessons that you've learned during Mercury retrograde and not trying to just like be like, phew, it's over, I'm ready to move forward, and just like rushing into the next tangled traffic jam. It's like take some time to journal perhaps about how that did show up for you and what it is that you're leaving behind and what it is that you're bringing forward in the spirit of this season as well. Thinking about those grasses, some which are green and still growing, and some which are ready to be mulched back into the earth. So you can channel Leo's fire into a focused and deliberate action, and also let Neptune across from Mars soften the edges of your ambition to align with something meaningful rather than reactive this week. So the combination of Mercury direct, but also Mars opposite Saturn still lingering through the week is a combination that says that you have the power to move mountains, but Saturn and Neptune as a prominent places in this chart will insist that you know why you're moving the mountains. And so it's all about continuing to stay patient, those burning embers of Leo season, the burning hearth embers, and maintaining a sustainable creativity throughout this week, because things kind of like all systems go, yay, benefics together in Cancer, but also, wait, it's provocation, and wait, we still got some of these other kind of tense things happening. It's definitely about maintaining the fire, kind of stoking the fire, knowing that like enough heat has been created for it to exist on its own. You might just need to blow on it a little bit. You might just need to believe that you can sustain the heat through the season. And then the weeks ahead can turn into a launch pad for really transformative momentum. It's just about not giving up, because we want this week to feel so #blessed. It was kind of a joke in the title, like we're blessed. There's some blessings coming our way, and it might still feel a little bit muddy, which is the nature of the moment. And so take what you can. Just, I think the image of these hot burning embers in a campfire that are like perfect for marshmallow roasting, and you couldn't get a good marshmallow by dipping it into the flames and burning it up. It's more like, ooh, this is a nice toasty roasty like hot heat that will sustain and cook my food for me. So that's the type of fire that late Leo season is bringing. Some questions that you can ask yourself as these two transits start off the week are: what heartfelt conversation have you been putting off that now feels ready to be had? Yeah, that one. I'll read it again. What heartfelt conversation have you been putting off that now feels ready to be had? Has someone's loving provocation helped you see a truth more clearly? Where are you ready to speak from the heart without overthinking it? What connection or relationship is calling for a little more warmth and a little more honesty? And how might you turn recent misunderstandings into deeper understanding? So, Venus and Jupiter kissing in a tree, Kissing. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And Mercury direct. Those are some good things. And then the sun. We always talk about the sun and where she's moving this week from gate 7, the gate of the role of the self in interaction, aka the army, into gate 4, formulation. And that's happening on Tuesday. And then the sun will remain in gate 4 through Saturday. And so this is a shift at the beginning of this week from the heart of leadership into the mind's search for answers. And as I mentioned a little bit ago, gate 7 lives in the G center, the central diamond-shaped center in the human design body graph. And this holds the frequency of the democratic leader. Gate 7 is not about power over others, but about power with, about guiding with integrity and being attuned to the shared direction of the group. In the Gene Keys, this gate journeys from the shadow of division to the gift of guidance to the city of virtue. Division as the shadow is the mindset that separates ourselves from others and loses sight of the whole. It's like being in the middle of being in an army and dividing them into two different camps rather than trying to unify. And the gift of guidance really arises when you understand that leadership is not self-appointed, but it emerges from trust and alignment over time. And virtue, the city, is the luminous state where leadership becomes an expression of that universal truth, that unity amongst people. So in the I Ching, this is known as the army. So you can think of an army not like an army going off to battle, but like the interplay of dynamics between the different levels within the army, how everyone has their role and you have to know what is needed for the whole group. And it speaks of discipline and unity and the wise use of power in service of the collective good. So then the sun enters gate 4, which is in the Ajna center, the third eye center in the body graph. And this is on Tuesday. So the energy turns towards the mind or the third eye's kind of intuitive way of handling uncertainty. So the gate of formulation is known as youthful folly in the I Ching. And this hexagram really talks about an eager but inexperienced mind that's just seeking understanding through asking lots of questions and formulating lots of hypotheses. And it teaches us that true answers require patience and humility and being open to the process of learning. The other night, my daughter saw a beautiful book that a friend is working on about dragons. And she saw it in its full glory, like almost ready to be sent to the publisher, like the layout, everything all done on the computer, kind of digital art. And she draws a lot of things with markers, but she had multiple meltdowns because she didn't want to go through the process of like learning how to do the drawings on the computer. She just wanted it full color, shiny, glossy, print out right away. And so I think about that and how oftentimes when we're trying to learn something new and understand something, we get so impatient because we just want it to be there right away. And I told her about how I quit piano when I was a little kid because I couldn't play for Elise immediately. And that's all I wanted to play. And I didn't want to learn scales. And I didn't want to, practice or have patience of learning the muscle memory. And so I just quit and eventually circled back around to it. But I remember after quitting, just trying to teach myself that song without knowing the notes or the scales and just like teaching by reading, by ear and playing by ear. And it's just not the way, right? So in this week, the gate of formalization or formulation is about allowing yourself the youthful intelligence of asking questions, of trying to come up with answers, but recognizing that maybe the formulas that you come up with and the hypotheses are not going to be the right ones. And it might turn back around. So in the Gene Keys, gate 4 evolves from the shadow of intolerance to the gift of understanding and the city of forgiveness. With intolerance, it's kind of like mental rigidity that wants quick answers and closes the door on alternative views. It just knows, it wants to know so badly that it pretends that it does know and it won't listen to anything else or any other ideas. And then the gift, as that evolves, is understanding, which emerges when you allow questions to be lived rather than forced and not expecting them to be immediate. And forgiveness is this higher state where all mental judgment softens and there is a deep compassion for human imperfection that arises, and how, it's not about the destination, but the journey when it comes to learning things and seeing where you fit into the larger picture, especially. So this transition this week asks us to carry the wisdom of gate 7, the leadership gate, into the curiosity of gate 4. We can bring the inclusive vision of the leader into the process of forming solutions. And that's with the Aquarius full moon just coming off of that with the gate of the listener, there's a lot of listening that is required. And I think I said it last week, but yeah, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. So listen twice as much as you talk. Use your mind not like a weapon to be right, like, I got this, but more so as a tool to uncover insight that serves the greater whole. And yeah, what you seek to solve now will carry more weight if it reflects the integrity of your heart and the humility of the perpetual student that lives within you. So those are the energies of the week that I'm going to get into. The main planetary dances being Mercury stationing direct and Venus Jupiter conjunction in Cancer in the gate of provocation. And then the sun transiting from gate 7 into gate 4. And this week could show up for you kind of like a slow emotional tide that is turning, the transition, the gray hairs, the dead strands of grass in between all the green ones. You might notice this week that conversations that have been stalled or gone sideways in the past few weeks are suddenly opening up again for more clarity. And that could look like reconnecting with a friend that you've been distant from, or finally addressing an unspoken tension with a partner, or realizing that something you've been holding inside is ready to be expressed. We got that Leo season expression. I had people in the breathwork group tonight do a lot of humming and toning and oohing and eyeing as just an exercise to put your voice out into the outer world as a part of Leo season energy. So I recommend doing that, like taking a deep inhale and on the exhale going ah or oh or and just letting that carry out through space. And it's a good way to just recognize that your internal vibrations do affect the external world. So with Venus and Jupiter in Cancer in gate 39 this week, honesty is best served with warmth and provocation can be playful. So let your provocation be a little loving nudge rather than a sharp jab that'll push people away. This is all about opening up conversations and creating conditions for liberation to occur. Mercury stationing direct in Leo might give you a burst of courage to re-enter a project or a passion or a pursuit that you've put on hold, and you might finally feel the desire to take up a little more space again, whether that's speaking up more boldly in a meeting or showing up more visibly in your creative work or moving through life with just a little more confidence. Of the lion, shake that lion mane. And if you've been second guessing yourself, this shift, this Mercury direct can maybe help you shake off hesitation and step forward into the limelight a little bit. The sun's move from gate 7 to gate 4 is bringing a natural change in focus where you might go from leading or guiding others toward thinking more deeply about your own internal questions. And this could show up as brainstorming solutions to a problem at work, or deciding how to restructure a daily routine, or reassessing how you're approaching a personal goal. The key here with this transition is to bring the integrity and service-mindedness of gate 7 into your problem solving of gate 4. Formalization, so that the answers you land on work for more than just yourself. And yeah, with Mercury direct this week, hopefully some clarity starts to return to you. If you felt misunderstood recently, you might get a chance to explain yourself or just sit with the fact that you don't have to explain yourself. If you've been carrying someone else's story, this is a good time to gently reflect it back to them or ask for more context, and don't sit in the holding of something that's not yours too much. You might notice that listening feels a little easier now and speaking feels a little more natural. It's definitely a good week to take advantage of that flow before the pace of life picks up again, and take advantage of this, beautiful kissing benefics in Cancer. Bring a little love to your home, bring a little love to your inner child, bring a little nourishment to your womb space in your belly, and try to be soft with yourself this week, especially if last week kind of opened up some challenging things for you. This week is a really good one to find that gratitude, that balance of gratitude and grief, and see if you can make a gratitude practice part of your routine, to writing down what you're grateful for, speaking it out to somebody in order to honor the things that are still growing and that have yet to be harvested. So thanks for being here. I always appreciate you listening. You can book readings with me if you'd like to go deeper into how all of this affects your chart or learn more about your human design or astrology. You can book readings at astrosomatics.com, and you can find me on Instagram at Cycles of Time Podcast and astro.somatics. And then on Substack, you can subscribe at cyclesoftime.substack.com to get this podcast in your inbox every Monday. As always, it's really nice to receive likes, comments, feedback, shares from you. 5-star reviews are great on the podcast platforms to extend the reach. And yeah, sharing with somebody who you think might benefit from this. If you know anyone who's interested in these intersections of the wheel of the year and the great turning as we spin quicker and quicker through space. So you can always join as a paid subscriber for the cost of a fancy coffee per month, $8 a month. My paid subscription tier on Substack is called Embody the Revolution. And with it, you get access to these guided breathwork sessions on a monthly basis and zodiac season workshops, as well as a detailed guidebook for each zodiac season, a PDF that's delivered to your inbox every month, a calendar of all the astrology and human design transits of 2025 and 26, and access to the chat to share in community and ask detailed questions. And then I'm also going to be offering discounted readings for paid subscribers as well to get more one-on-one contact with you all. So thanks again for being here. I will see you next week for the last, and I'll see you next week. Have a beautiful, beautiful, kissing benefic week ahead, and I'll see you soon. Bye.